Howdy y'all, my name is Ryuu, and today I am doing a video talking or discussing different fursuit making and fursuit making tips. And kind of just various tips on how to make quality fursuits. Not professional, but quality enough to make them comfortable enough to wear. Basically various things that I've learned personally over the years is that I feel like would help a lot of very new makers, like makers that have just started on the bare bottom, and things that I feel like should help quite a bit. So here we go. The first tip I want to give is don't shy away from tutorials at all. You're probably wondering, why would I for some people are probably thinking, why would you shy away from tutorials? That makes no sense. And that's the thing that I feel like some people actually are kind of against, is there are some people out there, like some very younger furries, that are like I can learn how to make a fursuit completely on my own. Don't do that. Fursuit making is very different from basically most other things, like from just traditional sewing even. Fursuit making can be very different from traditional sewing and just stuff like that. Like, you need to learn how to use a hot glue gun. You need to learn how to sew properly. You need to learn how to get the patterns on your fursuit's face and head in general. And yeah, how to make basically certain parts, like paws, for example. There are a lot of tutorials on how to make hand paws and stuff, and tails and stuff like that. Not saying you need professional advice, but you definitely should look for tutorials online on what you can do, such as not making puppy paws, making normal skinny paws, I guess, or something. I don't know. Basically, look at tutorials on how to do certain aspects of fursuits before, especially if you have no knowledge on how to do that in the first place. That is something I highly recommend for newer makers. The next piece of fursuit advice that I want to give is learn how to sew. This is probably the one I probably should have mentioned first, but whatever. Basically, it's really important that you actually learn how to properly sew something before you work on something as big as a fursuit. I recommend working on smaller projects, such as working on first pairs of hand paws or something, or hell, working on plushies for the first time, which are a very different thing to work on, but there's still a good avenue or starting place to work on. That is something I highly recommend as well. It's just genuinely learning how to sew and craft stuff in general. Hell, figure out how to work with certain different materials and stuff, and see where you work the best at. And then try expanding on your knowledge on how to work with fur, because that's very different from normal fabrics and whatnot. But generally, just try to learn how to work with, how to sew with normal fabrics before you work on fur, because that can be a very big and different experience, essentially. Next tip I want to give is use okay materials, and don't use the shit. If you don't know what I mean by that, basically don't use, when you're first working on your fursuit, it's obviously okay to use cheaper, lower quality materials at first. But as you improve, you will want to work with better and higher quality materials. But for your very first fursuits, don't work with the crap. Don't work with the bare bottom, very low quality stuff. Do your research on what is basically very good and nice quality furs. Or even just furs that you can find Amazon. Amazon has a pretty good selection, surprisingly. That's actually where I got some of my furs from actually that's where I get most of my furs from, especially online, is Amazon, ironically enough, so yay. But I do recommend going online and seeing for different furs and stuff, or going to stores like Joann's and looking for nicer quality furs but not super expensive furs. Now obviously when I say don't go for the super low quality, I mean don't go for the bare bottom of the bare bottom of the barrel. Don't go for the absolute crap. Go for stuff that's mediocre but can still be worked with pretty well. Especially if it's your first fursuit. You don't need extremely high quality materials, especially if you don't know how to work with them at first. And lower quality furs is, while yes, it's very obvious how low quality they are. It is okay for your first few fursuits. Trust me, I know. I used to work with lower quality materials, and as you improve, you can start working with more expensive materials or better quality. you will notice a difference when working with lower quality materials versus higher quality materials. You will notice a very big difference between the two. And yeah. The next tip I want to give is think of a design before actually working on your suit. This is something I should definitely acknowledge myself, as I've been like stupid about this, and I've on occasion have worked on a suit before actually thinking of the design of the character. So yeah, big dummy right here, big dummy. But anyway, I recommend highly that you try and make your fursuit as fursuit friendly as you can. Don't add parts that need things such as airbrushing at first, because that's a very different and very unique thing to learn and work on, as that can be very difficult to work on, especially if you're a very new maker that has no experience of how to work with an airbrush. Hell, I've never worked with an airbrush before, so I can only assume that's a very different experience. So yeah. So I recommend like working with designs that are first off very fursuit friendly, like a basic white wolf or a basic fox design or something like that. Something that's very simple and easy to work with. Like I recommend that's what your first design should be. Or if you want to work with more complicated designs, make sure to flesh out your design completely before actually like working on it. Because if you don't flesh out your design completely at first, it's likely not going to turn out the best, and you're likely not going to like it that much. There's a chance that you might like it, but that chance is very, very low, especially if you have no idea what you're doing, and especially if it's like your very first fursuit. So yeah, basically what I recommend at the end of the day is think of a design and work on it. And make sure it's something that you absolutely love and you're willing to make into a costume. So yeah. So yeah, those are my 4 points that I wanted to bring up to very new makers, and fursuit makers that basically have like bare minimum experience. Fursuit makers we work our asses off on fursuits. So I would love to. So these are the tips that I want to give out to newer makers. I know these tips might not be the best, but these are the tips that have helped me throughout the years. So I hope they can help you and all y'all in the future. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry if this video got kind of rambly at the end. I'm getting tired, but whatever. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all dudes in the next one. Peace out.
If I were to the sea